I feel like I have to just start this interview off by saying from one tall queen to another. I like fully appreciate the fact that there's another 6 foot plus woman out there representing. So
I do what I can.
um,
It's taken me years to really like own that space as well. It's not easy. Society really, really makes women feel that it's more usual for them to be smaller than take up space, and it takes time to get there. But I do what I can.
one of the things and there's so many things I want to talk about, but I know we only have a little bit of time. But to start, you're cast in this role. You have Peter Morgan's fantastic scripts, but I'm wondering what outside research you did apart from the scripts, aside, as far as Diana's life is concerned. Like, did you read the Andrew Morton biography? Did you kind of, what kind of written research did you kind of dive into while you were preparing to take this on?
I definitely read Andrew's biography. I read a lot of different books. I watched a lot of things. I watched a lot of documentaries. There's so much available. And I had time to do it as well, which was a huge luxury. So I really kind of swum through a lot of it. It's interesting in terms of written archival things. I also found out quite quickly that I would start reading a book, and I was always sort of like really drawn to it because I was doing that. I was in that phase of prep where you just are gleaning all information and then seeing kind of what sticks. But after a little while into each book I read, I sort of would pull up out of it, almost getting defensive about it, and realizing that there's always an angle and an agenda that the author has. And so it was almost in the end easier to read just kind of basic factual information and also watch footage.
When it comes to your performance, I think one of the things that's really impactful is you grasp a lot of the little nuances that she had physically. It come through, watching this season. How much of your preparation involved studying her movement, her body language, and kind of, trying to emulate that? Because it really does feel like it's not an impression. Like, there are scenes where it feels like you're kind of embodying her in a way.
Well, I did. I mean, I watched an enormous amount, and I knew, instinctively that that's a really important layer that you get right. Same as any sort of vocal work. And we have a movement coach on the Crown. Her name's Polly Bennett, and she's kind of a genius, and it's her job to sit down with us should we want to do that work with her and really kind of work through, watch things and speak about them and understand why certain things are happening physically, rather than just sort of going, oh, the character does this. So yeah, it was a huge layer of the process, and I spent a lot of time thinking about it.
One of the things that I think struck me about watching the season is that you get the distinct sense of the difference between who Diana was in public and who she may have been in private. How did you try to distinguish those two sides from one another in your approach to playing her?
Well, I think it comes down in a way to Peter's writing of her, because that distinction is very clear in the way he's written her. There's this sort of public facing version of this character, and that's a face, that's a sort of layer that has to be put on, that's a degree of protection, but also a kind of role that people expect of you, and a huge amount of pressure on that. And then obviously, if that's something that's being asked of a person, then they have to decompress and they have to take that off. And then I think the thing underneath it, which is something that Peter wrote and something I really embraced as an actor, is that the thing underneath that is actually a very vulnerable thing. It's a kind of very raw thing, and it's kind of we definitely see it with Emma, and then I think we see it through season 5. It's something that's still forming, because it's very difficult to grow into yourself naturally. I think when you're being observed from so many angles, it's so difficult, because in order for that to happen, you need balance, and you need privacy, and you need all those things that are sort of human, should be human rights in a way. And people who are under the spotlight like that don't always have access to those things. So
one scene that I really wanted to ask you about is the one in episode 9. Charles visits Diana in the apartment and the two are kind of reflecting on their marriage now that it's officially over. The divorce has been finalized. It felt like a very intimate scene, almost like a play in a lot of ways. I'm wondering, how many takes was that for you and Dominic to do? Like, what was that like to film on the day? I'm just curious as to how all that kind of came together.
Well, we actually shot it over 3 days, and we kind of there's different sets involved in it. So we kind of moved through the sets, and in a way it was like doing a play. It was we got to rehearse it, which is, luxury when you do TV. It was nice. And I'm a theatre actor really by trade, so that's very comfortable for me to have that kind of time and space to think about it. And then we did quite a few takes. In a way, we had time to do it, so we used it. We kind of pushed it in lots of different directions, and we did lots of different variations of it and played around with versions of how it, not with the writing, but the feeling of how it is affecting them or how it ends. So yeah, that was a joy to do that, because it wasn't something that we didn't feel the constraints of time, which is something that affects you a lot when you're making TV. We really got to delve into it, and it was a joy to do it with Dom, because he's an amazing actor. So we really both loved doing that scene, because it's almost the only scene we get together. And so it was a real treat to come in and do that for a few days.
Just really quick, looking ahead, the final season, was there anything that you wanted to approach differently in how, you come to Diana? I know you're probably doing quite a bit more work with Khalid specifically. We kind of see the seeds of that relationship that are sown in season 5 that was going to become very important in season 6. So I don't know if there's anything you can kind of tease for, where the last season's going, or
No, I don't want to give anything away, and we're still making it at the moment, so I'm just going to keep.
That's fair enough. I am all out of time in the questions, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to sit and talk with me. It's been such a pleasure to watch you this season, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this all wraps up next season as well. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Have a nice day.